may be wondering, why are we starting this mid-pour? Well, I was trying out a new custom mold and it failed. There was a leak and it just didn't work. So I was stuck with this soap I was already mixing up, and I'd already started filming that, and I just decided change midstream. So what you see here is a soap that has been colored with achiote and a little bit of nutmeg and scented with cedar wood. The whole idea of this was to be a wood-themed soap, but the design completely had to change. So what I've done here is I've poured it in the mold and the first layer, and I'm going to tilt it so that I can get an angle on it. So what I do is I just take a little pipe, which is part of a future soap. Don't want to give anything away. And I'm just using that to angle it. Actually, after the film stopped, I actually angled it a little more as well. So this is after it has dried. And what I've done, because it dried really hard, which is good, I took a ruler, a metal ruler, and I stuck down in there and just created some channels so that when I pour the next layer of soap, it has something to grip into. I hope that makes sense. Now this next layer is going to be colored with sandalwood powder and fragranced with a very nice dark patchouli essential oil that I just love. If I could bathe in it, I would. That may be a future video. I don't know. So what I'm going to do is get my soap mixed up here, and we're going to pour the next level. Taking just a little bit of the oil, and I'm mixing it with the sandalwood powder. Now, don't be alarmed by the dark color. That will become more of a sand color once the soap begins to dry. It's just now while it's wet with the oil that it looks like cocoa. So, and it smells fantastic. I love the smell of sandalwood powder. And then there with that patchouli nearby, I'm in nirvana. All right, so that's what I'm going to color the soap with, the sandalwood powder. And let me get my lye water here and let's get a move on. Because sandalwood tends to thicken up the mix, what I've done is I've gone ahead and put the sandalwood powder and my patchouli into my oils before I add the lye water. I just wanted to explain that before I get started here. And I do have all of this at room temperature. There were actually two fails that you missed, so I'll just be honest with you. There was the fail of the original mold, and then there was the fail of the first time I did what I'm doing right here. The difference is I used a stick blender. I have a water discount here, plus I'm using the sandalwood powder and patchouli oil, all of which can accelerate trace. So I decided this time I was just going to whisk it. No stick blender, and it worked great. But the first time I ended up with cement, so I just left that out. But I'm telling you now. And I will tell you, what you don't see here is I whisked the heck out of this. You're just seeing the end of it. I spent a lot of time whisking it. Do you see how thick it was getting? That's why I'm pouring so fast. I'm like, I'm going to get that in there. I really wanted to make sure that it made the attachment to that lower level. And again, this will lighten substantially. And that bottom layer, I forgot to mention, does have some red Brazilian clay in it as well. Just a little. And that's why it's got that nice rust tone along with the achiote powder. So I'm just going to smooth this out, and then we'll mix up the third and final layer. And this layer is going to be green. So let me explain what the theme of all this is. And by the way, I'm coloring this with wheatgrass. And again, scenting it with a little more of the patchouli. But the whole theme of this is early fall, kind of. What's happening where I live in northeast Texas is we're in a drought. The trees are really suffering. The old oaks, they're doing okay, but a lot of the trees around here, the elms, the tickletongue, which is a subject of another soap coming up, or salve, but the trees are dropping their leaves really early. I mean, they start in July. Here we are in August, and we're in full fall. There are leaves falling everywhere. So I thought it's not too soon to create a kind of fall-themed soap. Now, I had created some melt and pour leaves with my own melt and pour, but I will tell you that I wasn't real pleased with them. I mean, I went ahead and used them on this soap because, after all, that was the theme. But I've got a new mold that I'm really looking forward to using for my quote-unquote real fall soaps. But this is what I had. And they're just some little ones. Matter of fact, in one of I think my introduction video to this channel, it shows me using a vegetable peeler to cut the little leaves, and that's what I'm using here. Alright, so let's get our pour on. Tell you that wheatgrass is much better behaved than sandalwood powder, so no worries about it thickening up. And it came out the perfect color. I really was very happy with this. I like the way wheatgrass colors. It's my soap. Really nice. So I'm just putting a very light texture on this, and then I'll be adding on my leaves. But again, they didn't have the impact I wanted. I thought that the brown would look really good against the green, but it completely blends in. I think if I had done a darker brown and maybe had them more opaque, it would have worked. But because they're translucent, you can see the green right through them, they're not very effective. Now, it probably doesn't make sense to you that I'm calling it a fail before you've even seen it. That doesn't seem very wise. That's no way to keep people watching, right? I don't want to give a false impression, that's all. It's a fine soap. I like the soap. But the leaves themselves, yeah, they're a complete fail. They just don't show up. And, close up, and because I know they're there, yeah, I can see them. But do you see how they just blend into nothing? And at some point here, I actually tried to stand some up, thinking that would give it more of a three-dimensional quality. But it just looks like a comb over. It just doesn't work. But I just kept piling them on and trying different things, but it just doesn't look good. I don't like the top at all. And I realize that some of you will say some nice things about it because you're just those kind of folks, but I personally think it's doo-doo. It smells so wonderful too. The patchouli, the sandalwood, and I like the layers in the cut soap. But this top, yeah, it looks like chips and guacamole. It doesn't look like leaves. So you live, you learn. Now let's cut this sucker. Now, I will say, since it's dried, the leaves do stand out a little better. But I did cut one slice already because I wanted to see if the embeds would cause a problem, because they're the melt and pour, they're harder. I was kind of afraid they'd get dragged through the soap, which they one or two kind of did, but overall it worked. Now those little slits that you see in the orange, that's where I poked the ruler down in there and created the little crevices for the soap to go through. Yeah, lost a leaf. But overall, I love the colors. I like the sort of rust color base. I like the sandalwood layer. And I like the green color on top. It's just the leaves. They don't look like leaves. No. So, yeah, there's that. So I'll take this opportunity to ask you to subscribe. If you haven't already, give me a thumbs up or down if you don't like the video. And please leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Most of all, watch to the end. There's a photo of a prize, and there is a subject matter question there. And you need to answer that question in the comments to be registered for the very prize. All right? So thanks, everyone. It's great having you here. And I'm not going to over ask you to join, to subscribe, and do the alerts and all that stuff. If you want to do it, you'll do it. If you don't, that's okay too. I'm just glad you're here. I'm not going to beat you over the head with this stuff like I see some channels do. That chases me off. I don't know how it affects you. So thank you again. Have a great day, and I'll see you back soon. Bye, everyone.